Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Apologists in Detroit Blogcast. This is a continuation of the series entitled Spiritual Glasses. And today I think today's blogcast will probably be more of an introduction to a lens than it will be a recognition of a lens, because I don't think this lens is in wide use in the church. But I think that it's probably one of the most, if not the most important lens that you can use when interpreting the scriptures in an effort to have the best understanding of the scriptures, okay? All right, I'm going to set it up with kind of the concept, the philosophy of it, okay? And here's the philosophy of it. Have you ever had like a situation where someone asks you to explain something to them and you're trying to explain it to them, but the concept of it is a little too complicated? You know, I work in the auto industry and automotive preventative maintenance and repairs, and I commonly run into this problem when you're trying to explain to someone a problem that's wrong with their car, and it's like speaking another language. They really don't get it, and it takes quite a bit of details for them to understand it. Or if you have a kid, you know, your kid asks you a question, 4 or 5 years old, and you're trying to explain it to them, like where do babies come from? and you know, some questions are a little bit more difficult than others, and because of that, so it takes time for you to be able to explain these things to them, or sometimes, you know, it's just an accumulation of information over years of time that things actually make sense to them. And I think that's the case with this particular lens here today. I think it's widely accepted that God delivered his message of reconciling man to himself, to humanity, in a progressive revelation. So I think that he probably recognized, this is all hypothetical by the way, that he probably recognized that we wouldn't understand or appreciate, or for whatever reason wouldn't be able to accept the fact that if he just had told us, Adam and Eve, hey, I'm just going to send my son down here. He's going to die for on the cross, and that'll pay the price for your sins and reconcile you back to me. And I think what he chose to do was to bring to us the message of the cross through a progressive revelation. And that progressive revelation is the salvation of humanity is the lens that I want to, you know, present or, you know, talk about today. Okay, the lens in itself, I think, starts in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, when after the fall of man, and God offers the comment in 3:15. He says, "Your seed and your seed and woman's seed will have enemy, will be hostility between the two. Your heel will bruise her heel will bruise your head, and your head will bruise her heel." And the point that it was that is commonly recognized as a messianic prophecy about the coming of Jesus Christ. Okay. So right even at the beginning, you know, this message of salvation was the purpose, behind the things that God will be doing in his interactions with man. The next step in this progressive revelation would be when God called Abraham and made a promise to Abraham that I would make you the father of many nations. This is in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. And so then you have, you know, all of the happenings of the Old Testament with the descendants of Abraham, and with God giving them the Ten Commandments and the law. And then we get to the New Testament. Okay, so Jesus Christ comes on earth, and Jesus Christ brings the revelation, or admits or tells the world, I am God, okay, which is kind of a hard thing to accept, as you could probably imagine. So Jesus Christ lives his life. He preaches for 3 years and points out how he is the Messiah that was prophesied about. And I think those prophecies played a big part in God building the case for this is what he was talking about. Jesus Christ fulfilling those prophecies. Jesus Christ even made this remark in Matthew chapter 5, verses either 15 or 17. He says, I have not come to destroy the law and the prophets, but I have come to fulfill the law and the prophets. And then in Psalms 40, verses 6 through 8, which is also quoted in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 7, he says, I have come to do your will, O Father. It is written about me in the volume of the scroll. He's saying the entire scriptures is written about me. The law and the prophets were written in Matthew 5. He's saying the law and the prophets were written so that they would point to me, and I'm here to fulfill that. And in Hebrews, he's saying it's written about me. It's all about me. The volume, the totality, the whole of the scriptures is written about me. And I think that this is the lens that needs, this is a primary lens that needs to be used when we are reading the scriptures. Whether we're reading the Old Testament, in Genesis or in Leviticus or Deuteronomy or Joshua, or we're reading the prophets and the things that would happen, or Judges and all of the different times that the people of God went into captivity and God delivered them, and then they sinned and went into captivity and God delivered them. And all of these things were in place, where all these things were allowed to happen so that the true understanding that Jesus Christ was who God said he would be and would come at the time when God said he would come, which would be at the end of the prophets and before the destruction of the temple, Daniel chapter 12. And this is the lens that we need to, I think we need to critically look at all of the scriptures. When we're interpreting the scriptures, we need to recognize, when we're saying, well, what's going on here? What is God trying to tell us? Ultimately, one of the things that God is doing is God is delivering the ultimate point that Jesus Christ, that he's going to reconcile us to himself through Jesus Christ. So salvation, the purpose of salvation is the lens that I'm offering or encouraging you or us as students of the Bible who are trying to understand the message of God, to recognize that the ultimate message that we should get out of the scriptures or understand in interpreting the scriptures is God's plan to save man or reconcile himself to his man is why whatever is going on in the scriptures is going on. Whether it be Samson delivering the children, whether it be what happened with Ruth or with Esther, or whether it be what happened with David, or every bit of Old Testament and New Testament scriptures is meant to point to the fact that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and him being the Messiah is God's plan to reconcile us to himself. And I think that when we read the scriptures in light of that, they make the most sense. We don't run into as many hiccups or problems where we have unreconcilable verses.